Yeah, g'day, Dave here. Well, today we're on something completely different. Out for a cruise on the new BMW R18. And what a lovely piece of kit this is.
We were out by the island waterways, cruising around the area between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Spook was riding the new BMW R18 for our photo shoot while I was on his bike, and we stopped at some traffic lights when he pulled up and said, "You know, the riding position is just like my old Triumph Tiger." Of course it is, I had to agree. BMW calls it a riding experience that is as cultivated as it is emotional. And that's a bit too much hyperbole for me, but either way, I really enjoyed my time testing this motorcycle and its ergonomics. I was very comfortable with everything about this machine.
It's got a very comfortable saddle. It has mid controls and no option for anything else but mid controls, but it's a very pleasant bike to be aboard.
And to be fair, I was actually a little bit emotionally invested in it too. This bike took me to a very happy place, no matter where I rode it. It's not perfect, but it is a joy. At first, I thought this was an example of BMW copying machines from Harley or Indian, but the more I looked into it, the more I found that it is actually a case of them paying homage to a long and storied heritage and models like the classic R5. From its unique swooping exhausts to the exposed shaft drive to the slab-sided coffin tank, the styling cues come straight from 1936. But they have evolved into a well-performed modern cruiser. At its heart is an all-new, old-school style, air-cooled, big boxer, and the motor displaces 1,802 cc's or 110 cubic inches with 4 overhead valves per cylinder. BMW claims it's the biggest, most powerful boxer engine ever, producing 91 horsepower at 4,750 RPM and 158 newton meters of torque at 3,000 RPM. Its 107.1 by 100 millimeter bore and stroke are slung in a package that tips the scales at 345 kilograms wet, and it all adds up to a machine that is quick off the line with very good roll-on power, and that's a joy on the open road.
Open road riding's very smooth. There's a slight pulse coming through the handlebars. Nothing much through the foot pegs. You can just feel it through the grips a little bit. But again, it's nothing excessive or even annoying. It's just there. It's kind of nice to actually feel the big jugs pounding along, and that's another thing that I do really like about this bike is when you sit here and you look down, you've got these 2 massive jugs hanging out the side, and it's very attractive. It really is. The big pushrod tubes and massive header pipes on it. And it will cruise quite comfortably in top gear at 60 kilometers an hour without any sign of lugging or any resistance from the motor. Righto, slight uphill on-ramp. Let's see how she launches. Yeah, that launches well. Gets up to operating speed quite quickly. Sounds reasonably pleasant from the rider's perch while you're doing it too.
Or roll away distance at freeway speeds with nothing but the pleasant pulse from the engine transmitted through the wide, cruiser-style handlebars that sit on small risers. When we did stop at the traffic lights, the side-to-side motion of the handlebars caused by those massive pistons going backwards and forwards was reminiscent of an older Harley.
And you can see there's just the wobble backwards and forwards of the handlebars, which is quite engaging actually. I quite like it. There's no torque steer or centrifugal motion from that horizontally opposed twin in normal situations. When you do kick it down low speeds into the corners, you can actually feel a little bit of a torque pull every now and again. Dropping into traffic is just delightful. It's got big torque hammer.
The drivetrain is equally impressive, with a slick and sure-shifting 6-speed gearbox and a lash and slap-free final drive. The hydraulically activated single-disc dry clutch is light and precise.
Gearbox is lovely and crisp. Really is. It's probably the best shaft drive gearbox I've ridden. Even stationary, just pops into neutral, no problem at all. No cantankerousness, just easy to find. It is a very, very nice gearbox. No clunking or lurching when you throw it into gear from neutral.
Opinions regarding the aesthetic of the exposed shaft drive and its universal joints was somewhat polarised, but I really liked it.
It's got a reverse gear, or it's got a reverse assist as well too, which runs off the starter motor. There's a little lever down the bottom here that you engage if you want to back it out of an uphill parking spot or something like that.
BMW calls its various systems MSR and ASC.
Over here on the left-hand switch block, you've got the menu button, which takes you through the various displays available. You can look at the tacho, you can look at the various trip computer functions, countdown fuel. All those different functions are available via this button over here on the left. Next to that is the mode button. And there's 3 riding modes. There's rock, there's roll, and there's rain, which obviously translates to rock being when you want to give it a bit, sporty sort of mode, roll for when you're cruising away on the open highway, and rain for improved traction. All of that is switchable with this button over here too. You can actually disengage the traction control and other ABS features. Why you'd ever want to, I don't know, but it's available on this bike. It's got traditional switch gear, left and right indicator over here on the left-hand switch block. Over here on the right-hand switch block, there's heated grips.
Amongst its many features, the automatic stability control system and MSR prevent the rear wheel from slipping as a result of abrupt throttling or downshifting.
It's got hill control or hill start control, which lock the brakes until you release the clutch and start moving.
Naturally, it has ABS on the excellent linked brake system with twin 300mm discs up front and a single rear. Both sets have fixed 4-piston calipers and they are simply superb brakes. Several of our riding buddies bemoaned the fact that forward controls are not an option on this bike. I quite liked its sit at the dinner table riding position. It made it easier to get a little bit of weight off board to compensate for the bike's somewhat limited lean angles.
So one of the things about the bike is that it's long, low and quite wide. So you actually have the sort of cornering clearance that you'd expect from something like a Harley-Davidson Fat Boy, or the cornering clearance isn't really the same as the capability of the bike's handling. But you ride around that, you use some more body English, get some more weight off board, and it does handle quite well. Around town and in traffic, you do get a little bit of heat on your feet off the big jugs. It's not excessive, it's just a little bit of heat. What this big 1800cc twin does is launches really nicely. A little bit through the foot pegs, but nothing annoying or problematic. It's very solid and planted on the road. The upright riding position means that you can lock elbows against the wind, and I find it quite comfortable. And those railway lines there can give some of the cruisers a bit of a hard time with the suspension. This thing just lapped it up. Again, like just about every other standard motorcycle, operate better by short shifting rather than really tapping it out and keeping it in its torque zone with the tune on these pipes. But overall, what it comes down to is that this is just a very pleasant bike to be aboard.
The 49mm telescopic forks and cantilever rear suspension work in concert with its 1731mm wheelbase to give a sure-footed and very comfortable feel on the road. The rear suspension is adjustable for preload and has a pretty respectable, for a cruiser, 90mm of travel available, while the front offers 120mm.
It's very nicely finished, you know, I guess it's what you'd expect from a BMW. It's got just nice touches throughout, really nice hydraulic fluid reservoirs. The instruments are quite clear and there's a good array of data available.
The headlight is unique and very effective, and the test bike was fitted with optional adaptive lighting, which has additional LED elements in the main headlight that are activated by banking angles. They shine down closer to the road when cornering. All the other lighting is LED and are high-tech. We did find the rear indicators that are set inside the brake and running light stalks a little hard to see in bright daylight, but that was about our only gripe with the bike.
Tucked under the engine down there is a tiny little horn that doesn't really do this bike justice. It's yeah, one of them.
It also has a prominent Berlin-built inscription on the dial, as do the brake and clutch reservoirs, in case you forget the origins of this delightful motorcycle. But indeed, how I found the BMW First Edition: delightful. From its keyless fob to the kick of that enormous motor, it's an entirely viable alternative in the heavy cruiser market with a heap of history behind it.
So for the full story, be sure to check out issue number 175 of Heavy Duty Magazine. See you on the road.